What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to Catching Up with Kat. My name is Kat Walsh, and today's episode I'm going to be dedicating to my daughter Bella and just talking about motherhood, first time being a mother, my story giving birth, how my pregnancy was, and then life postpartum up until now. And this weekend, my daughter turns 3, which is just surreal to me. People really do tell you like, oh, time flies, cherish every minute. And you don't realize until you actually become a parent and see for yourself. So I'm just going to kind of start from the beginning of when I got pregnant and go from there. So her father and I, young, dumb kids, okay? We met through riding motorcycles. We were being very irresponsible. We were dating, and boom, I got pregnant. It wasn't really planned, but we definitely weren't being careful as we should have been. But so I got pregnant, and we didn't stay together very long afterwards. So I spent a good majority of my pregnancy alone, which was hard, and has led me to my stance today where I don't think I want any more children, just for the sake of going through it alone, and how traumatic and hard my actual birth was, and just all the challenges. So I got pregnant. It was a long, painful, miserable pregnancy. A lot of people I've heard, there's women that absolutely love being pregnant. They could have 10 kids if they wanted. And then there's others like myself who just really did not enjoy the experience at all. But it was really cool to have like the app that you can keep track of how big the baby is and just follow along and feel the kicks and hear the heartbeat and look at the ultrasound pictures. It's really a cool experience and crazy that we are capable of growing human beings inside of us. So pregnancy definitely was not my favorite. And I lived in a 3rd-story apartment at the time. So I was constantly carrying heavy loads of groceries and other stuff like that up the stairs. And I had a dog. So every morning we'd be going up and down the stairs, going for walks, stuff like that. So nearing childbirth. So her original due date was May 20th. And at the time, I was opening up Armor Auto Spa, which is a detail and window tint shop that I opened up with my partner Sung and Brian, which is still there today. But at the time, we moved to a different location. It was just Sung and I and Jenny. And this building that we got in Cleveland was an old bicycle shop, and this bicycle shop was there forever, I guess, and you could definitely tell by the inside of this building. It was very outdated. It had the pegboard. It was like yellow because people probably smoked in there back in the day, and it was just god awful. So here I am, 9 months pregnant, ripping down the walls, painting, doing all this construction, trying to like stay active, because the more active you are, it'll speed things along a little bit. So my due date was May 20th. And I think it was like, a month or maybe around my baby shower, which was in March, where my baby dad, for lack of better words, his name's Matt, we decided to get back together, start working on things, like try and be a family, like when the baby arrives, whatever. So we were trying to work things out. I was trying to start and grow my business at Armor Auto Spa and moving to a new location. We were doing construction, just super busy. Life was crazy. I was huge. I was like fucking 185 pounds when I was full term pregnant, which normally I'm like 125 to 130 is typically where I stay. So I was 185 pounds, busting my ass at the shop, and life was good. May 20th rolls around, which is my due date. No luck. she wasn't coming. So I'm like, maybe she's holding out for her dad's birthday, which his birthday is May 22nd. Nope, not then either. And after a certain amount of time, the doctor starts being concerned, like, once you're so far past your due date, then we can schedule an induction because it gets dangerous in there for the baby after a certain amount of time. So I went in May 27th, I believe it was, and just still no signs of this baby being ready. She was big, her heart rate was strong, but they were like, we need to schedule an induction, which, me not knowing really anything about this kind of stuff and kind of being like a worried first time mom, I just wanted to make sure that my baby was okay and there was going to be as little complications as possible. So we scheduled the induction May 28th, went in first thing in the morning, and me being always over-prepared, I got the suitcase of clothes and snacks, like preparing like I was going to be there for a month, And my mom was like, you're ridiculous. You don't need all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And mind you, this all was happening in the midst of COVID. So May of 2020, that's when like lockdowns were happening. You could only have one person with you when you gave birth, and you guys couldn't leave the room. You couldn't leave and come back. Like, you were stuck in your room the whole time. So at that point, Matt and I were still very freshly back together. I was going to just have my mom come with me because my mom has 4 children. She's been through this, she knows what to do. And everyone, wants the support from their mom. But last minute, I was like, Matt and I are working on things. I wanted him there because he's the father. And so we went May 28th to get induced at St. John's in Westlake. And it was crazy. They stuck, this is when they were doing the COVID swabs. They stuck it all the way up to your brain. I swear to God, it was awful. She's like, if you don't do this, then you're not allowed to have anyone in the room with you, XYZ. And I'm like, that's fucked up. They didn't even give him a COVID test, just me. So I was like, I'm so done with this. They did the COVID swab. Everything was fine. And they started me on Pitocin. And the Pitocin is like an IV fluid that brings on contractions and tries to start the birth or the labor process. So I think that was around like 9 a.m. And this whole time leading up to giving birth, I was fucking terrified. I'm like, everyone's going to be looking at my hoo-ha. Like, there's going to be people all down in there, I was super worried I was going to like poop, because a lot of people do when they're giving birth. And let me tell you, when you're there in the midst of it all, nothing matters. Okay. Like, I didn't care at all. Like, just get this baby out of me. People do this for a living. I'm sure they've seen everything you could imagine. So we start the Pitocin like 9 a.m. and I'm like, I don't feel anything. And they also had me hooked up to a monitor so that they could monitor the baby's heart rate. And they show you when you're having a contraction. And I'm like, I don't feel anything. Like, that's crazy. So that it took a little bit. And then once you start feeling it, you just start feeling it. And it's horrible. And you can't eat, can't drink, can't really like move. So they broke my water. They were going up there to check me, and broke my water without my permission. They're just like, oh, we're doing this. I'm like, oh, great. And then as they did that, I was like, why the hell is it like brown? And sorry if this is disgusting, but I was like, why the fuck is it brown? Like, is that normal? Like, no, the baby pooped in you. I'm like, oh, great. Like, I wanted a all natural water birth, no epidural. I wanted to be in the water laboring, and all of that got taken away from me when I had to get induced, because the baby was not coming out. So I especially could not get in the water now that she pooped in me, because that has a big red flag for infection. So you have to be super careful. They were still monitoring, and so we tried to progress on. And I'm telling you, like, the time goes by so fast, but the pain is so excruciating. It's just all a daze. So I was trying to move around, I hear that the more you're up and moving, swaying, rocking on a ball, like, the more it helps. But I just remember being in so much pain, like I could hardly move, and it just being such a blur. And then the doctors came in, I had midwives, and they were like, her heart rate is starting to drop. And I was only 4 centimeters dilated after so fucking long. I don't even know what time I ended up going in for my C-section, but it was probably around 9:30, 10 o'clock. They started getting me prepped. I'm already so far into labor. I started at 9 a.m. and by the time it's 12 hours later, 11 hours later, something like that, now they're wanting to give me an epidural to get me ready for the C-section. And man, I just remember hanging on to my midwife. She was in front of me. I had the anesthesiologist behind me trying to give me this epidural. And I was just, gripping to this woman because it was painful. And so they did that. And like, I felt a little bit of relief, but only on one half of my, I think it was the right side of my body. It was one half of my body, and the other half I could still feel it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So they roll you into the C-section room. They get everyone in their little get-ups for sanitary reasons. And they strap me down to the table like Jesus and start the C-section. I was awake. They just had this little sheet covering so that I couldn't see, but Matt was in there, and I guess he was just looking at my insides, just watching. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely not. I was in pain still. I could feel all the horrible things, like them vacuuming out my insides, and it was just really, really intense. So I guess you could see why I do not want another child of my own, unless I am very convinced. But that was a experience. And I remember she was born at 11:08 p.m. So by the time she got out, it was like 11:08, and they pull her out and it was just silent. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, just waiting for that first cry, waiting for the baby cry. And then I finally hear it. And I'm like, oh, the best fucking sound in the world, like everything changes. You go from excruciating pain all day long, all these doctors poking at you, prodding at you, stabbing you with stuff. And then you just hear that baby cry and everything just goes away. It's just like, you just dial in on that. You're instantly kicked in as a parent, a mother, like your instincts are going. So I just remember they got her all washed up and brought me over to her, and my arms were still strapped down, but they laid her right by my head, and I just wanted to, hold her, but I'm like partially numb, just got cut open and it was crazy. So they got me all stitched up, glued back together, and were rolling me back to the room and literally just set her on my chest. And like my arms weren't working. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like trying with all my might to hang on and not drop her, because I had very little control over my body at the time. And I just, yeah, it's so funny looking back on this moment, because I feel like so much of it is a blur. But when you really reflect on it and think back, like, it was crazy. It was wild. So I'm really grateful for the nurses and midwives that I had at the hospital. They were super helpful. I really wanted to breastfeed, but but exclusively pump. So I was just going to pump and put it in a bottle, and then she would get the breast milk that way because I literally went right back to work. So I wasn't going to be able to have her breastfeeding off of me. So I started doing that, and man, they really don't tell you how much hard work that is too. You're pumping every 2 hours. You have doctors coming into the room every hour to check on you, check how you're healing. They push down on your stomach to get that's the worst. That pain was the worst. It was between that. So they come in, they push down on your stomach to try and get like your uterus to go down or whatever it is. That's excruciating. And then I don't know if it's just from C-sections or not, but you get these gas pains in your shoulder. Oh, that was awful as well. So they were like, do you need what is it? A muscle relaxer or something like that? I'm like, no, I'm fine. Oh no, give me it all. Whatever is going to help. So I definitely learned my lesson there. But then shortly after I had her, there were some complications with her, and her body temperature wouldn't stay normal. Her heart rate wouldn't stay normal either. She was jaundiced, which is pretty normal. But yeah, they mostly took her and put her in an incubator, and we had to walk over to the little room to see her whenever we could. But we didn't really get the whole close bonding experience because she was kind of sick right off the bat, and we ended up needing to get transferred down to Rainbow Children's downtown because she wouldn't stabilize, and they were saying that she was fighting an infection but couldn't figure it out. So they put her in one of those little incubators where you can only touch them with a glove through the hole, and it was so sad. They took her by ambulance down to there, and I think it was 3 or 4 days of being in St. John's. Then they transferred us, and they took us to the NICU there, and just were trying to do blood tests. They had all these monitors on her, trying to figure it out. And this doctor comes in and was like, we're considering a spinal tap. And I'm like, consider this ass. It's not happening. You're not going to do a spinal tap on my 4-day-old baby. So they gave her some antibiotics, and we just toughed it out. We were in the hospital about 7 days after giving birth, and it was a wild ride. Even when we went to Rainbow, it was the craziest thing. I just had a C-section. All right. So I'm like in pain, I just literally got sliced open. So I'm in pain. I like shouldn't really be up and walking all that much, but I was. And at Rainbow, they didn't let her father stay the night with me. So at a certain hour, they kicked him out, and I was there all alone with the baby until like 7 or 8 in the morning, which I thought was absolutely wild. And they didn't have a bed or anything for me. I just literally slept right along the window. They have like these little cots. So that's where I slept. But I was like, I'm not leaving my baby, especially like her being sick and whatever. So they pumped her with 3 different antibiotics, which I was like, not happy about, but it eventually helped. They never really figured out what it was, and that was that. I was finally able to take her home, and at the time I was living with my mom. Took her home, got settled in, and got to enjoy time with little baby girl. And literally, just like that, we're 3 years later. I feel like that was yesterday. So this coming Sunday, it'll be her 3rd birthday. We're having a crazy party at my new house with Celeste. And just looking back, I'm like, I just don't even know how this is possible for time to fly so fast. I'm grateful she has been such a healthy kid ever since birth. There was that little hiccup, But other than that, she's been super healthy. She's really a strong kid, and I take a lot of pride in that because I try and feed her good. There's supplements like vitamin D I give her, vitamin C, and then like immune stuff too. I just want to build her up so that she's strong. I also have a couple Q&As on the topic of motherhood and parenthood and whatever, because I don't want this to just be tailored only towards mothers, because I feel like there are so many fathers out there too that are doing it all. But ever since I had her after the fact, her dad and I split up, and now it's just been me solely taking care of her majority of her life. He was around here and there when she was younger, but now it has been just me. I did have an ex-boyfriend who was heavily involved in her life, but ever since that, I'm all she's got. And I have a very, very small family. So I do have some support from them and my best friend Celeste, which I'm super grateful for. But we do have a pretty small family, and it's tough being a single parent. It really is. And single moms, single dads that are out there doing it. Like, I really do give you props because I go through it every single day. Every single responsibility that comes with her and myself and just like staying afloat, that's all on me. And it is hard. It is hard. And it takes a lot of work, but it is so worth it to watch these crazy kids grow up. So I'm going to jump into some of the Q&As. One of the questions was, do I have any advice for couples wanting to start a family? And I think for couples that are wanting to start a family, like really, really, really make sure that you two are solid as it gets, because having a child really does take away a lot from that relationship if you guys aren't solid. Not majority, I don't know the percentage, but a lot of people just don't make it after they have a kid because of resentment building up, all the responsibility falling on one person, hormones changing. There's just so many things that can either really grow you guys as a family and pull you so close together, or it can be the opposite. And if you guys really aren't solid, it can just like tear you apart. And then you're stuck co-parenting, or one of the parents just completely disappears. And then you got a single parent doing it all. And it's just not even something I'd wish on anyone. A child should have two happy, healthy parents that can get along and co-parent. And then eventually one day, have bonus parents. It's understandable that people don't work out. I'm settled with the fact that her dad and I did not work out. But obviously he just does not want to be in her life as of now. So it would be awesome to be able to co-parent and have his potential girlfriend and my potential boyfriend one day. That's bonus parents. That's so much extra help, That's just a dream, because right now, after doing everything alone for so long, it's exhausting. And it's like, I would greatly love all the help, and just, I want her to have all that support as well. And I want her to have love from all angles and consistency and all that, but can't force it. It just is what it is. So I'd say my advice for couples wanting to start a family is, seriously, make sure that you guys are solid before anything else. Because when you get married, you're like, till death do us part. It's us before anyone else. But that all changes once you have a kid. The priority is then the baby, doing everything for the baby. The typical dynamic is always the father going to work and provide financially, and then the mom is at home with baby 24/7. And I constantly see that being nothing but issues. Like, in some scenarios, it works out and it's great, but others, it's like
the dude is over here like, I make all the money, I do all that. And then the mom is like, please fucking help me at this house. I'm here 24/7. I do everything, laundry, cooking, dishes, everything, taking care of the baby. Like, and then resentment just builds, and then people split up because there's not the communication and understanding of both people's sides. So just really sit down, get grounded with each other, and make sure it's something that will be beneficial. Because everybody wants a baby. Babies are cute, babies are a part of you. And I just think that there needs to be more education on what it really is like being a parent, especially worst case scenario, you end up a single parent. So I look at it like I was irresponsible. I jumped and had a child with someone who definitely doesn't have a lot of regard for the other parent, because here I am doing it all alone. But at the end of the day, we both made the decision to have unprotected, and here we are. But I'm okay, I'm willing to put in the work because she deserves it. And maybe one day I'll find my person who will want to step up. But until then, I'm good on children. Stepchildren are welcome, but I don't think about growing another one. All right, next one. How long should you breastfeed for? Fed is best, whether it's breastfed or formula fed. I really wanted to try for a year to breastfeed her just because the extra nutrients, it's like liquid gold, they call it, but it really is hard. So I had her and I literally went right back to work, like basically right away. So I was working at the shop, buffing cars, detailing, all that kind of stuff. And every 2-3 hours you're pumping. So I brought my pumps to work. I pumped the milk, put it in the fridge. And I breastfed her for about, I want to say 6 months. And she was formula fed as well. So it was really hard. It was really tough to manage doing all that and then cleaning the parts and having it like transported in a timely fashion, because breast milk will go bad after a certain amount of time. And it was a real process, and I learned a lot about all that. And it's so cool how the female body can like tailor to whatever the baby needs. Like, I used to be sitting there, and if the baby started crying, I would just like start pouring milk, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, the body knows what the baby needs. Even if the baby was sick, then the breast milk would have like extra like nutrients and stuff to help the baby get better quicker. So I found that really cool, but I only made it about 6 months, which is still a huge accomplishment. Especially when your body's under so much stress from working so much, trying to juggle the baby when you get home, trying to keep up on yourself. It was a lot. So I did that. And then I also, I just love little like memory trinkets. So I shipped out a bag of my breast milk and got a ring made. And it's such a beautiful ring and such a cool thing to hold on to forever. But like, she makes the stone out of the breast milk, and she put Bella's birthstone, my birthstone, and my favorite color, and mixed it all up. And it's just a gorgeous piece. But I thought that was cool. And that's something that I'd recommend for mamas so that they can have that little memory and piece with them. I got a question that was, how did you lose your baby weight? So like I said, I was 185 pounds when I had her. And that's huge. I've never been that big in my life. And then nobody tells you how you have the baby and the next day you're still as big. Your belly is still puffed out. You still look pregnant for like a week or two after having the baby, which I was not expecting at all. I had no clue about that. So that was kind of weird to look pregnant and not have a baby in your belly. But I really just took it slow. You don't want to go back into heavy exercise and hurt yourself. I think the breastfeeding really helped for weight loss and just getting back to work and staying active. I didn't do any extra workouts or anything like that. I just really was walking around, working, and breastfeeding. And eventually I got back to where I was. Um, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 months after I worked out a little here and there, but I really had to take it easy on my stomach because when they do a C-section, they cut so many of your nerves. So still to this day, my stomach is numb from all the nerves that they cut through, but just really take it easy. Some people bounce back quicker than others. Some people just don't bounce back ever. That's just fine. We did a crazy thing in having a baby and building a whole human. So give yourself some credit. Take it easy. Don't hurt yourself. What is the hardest part of motherhood? There's a lot of hard parts. The hardest part is when you have a daughter and she has the same attitude as you and you know that you're fucked. Okay, you know it. You're like, I'm so screwed. What am I going to do? What about when she turns into a teenager and wants to start dating? I'm screwed. Absolutely screwed. No, but on a real note, hardest part of motherhood? For me, the easiest thing was just your mother instincts kick in and you do what you got to do. I'll hustle and grind and research and read whatever I got to do to figure out what my baby needs, how to help a sick baby, just stuff like that. But the hardest part is really the depression that can come with it, I guess. The loneliness of being a single parent and really not having the village that people talk about. Everyone's always like, it takes a village to raise a kid. I don't have a village at all. Anytime I really want to go do anything or go to work or work evenings, I'm paying for it 98% of the time. So it really is hard, especially when you don't have a lot of support. So for me, it was very isolating, and it really gets you down when you kind of miss being a young adult. I'm only 25 years old, but now I can't go out and party or go out and ride whenever I want or go just travel if I wanted to. I gave up a lot of that when I decided to be a mom, which is perfectly okay. But there are times when you wish you could do certain things and not have to ask people's permission or pay for a sitter or, stuff like that. If you can even find a sitter. So I guess that would be the hardest part for me is just losing a piece of my youth, not having the support that some people do, and just going through a lot of it alone, toughing it out alone. People comment on how strong I am, and they're like, I admire your strength and how strong you are. And I'm like, I appreciate that. I really do. But sometimes it would be cool not to be so strong, It would be cool to just have some help. And then the last one, and then I'm going to wrap this up. What are you most proud of in motherhood? I'm most proud of seeing my daughter and hearing the stuff that comes out of her mouth. She enunciates her words so well and she talks so good and she's just so smart and spunky and just, I know she's not going to take shit from anyone, and that's good, It's a tough world and you gotta raise a tough kid because my biggest fear is just people messing with her and her not having the strength to not care about what other people think. So I guess I'd be the most proud of how strong she is. Just seeing her
and how she is, I have to give myself credit, because where is she learning this stuff from? I'm really the only person she's ever with constantly, other than her going to daycare. But I don't know, man. I'm in trouble big time with this little girl. I hope she doesn't get into riding. I hope that if she watches this ever one day, that she's proud of me as her mom. And I just want her to be happy, healthy, and get whatever she wants. And I'm going to set her up for success. So I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud of her, because she just goes and gets whatever she wants already. And she's 3 years old. So this weekend, I'm really tuning in and spending as much time as I can with her, cherishing these little moments. Can't believe my little baby's going to be 3 years old. I love you so, so much, Bella B. And thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to stop by next week and have a great weekend. Be safe on Memorial Day. And I'll see you guys next week.